Welcome to Kaylee College of Commerce. I, Professor Sneha Hiremat, would like to continue PUC First Year Part 1 Foundations of Business. Yes, here as we were explaining about the business risk in the last video, that is, risk is nothing but the possibility of inadequate profit or even sometimes loss that arises due to uncertainties or unexpected events. And the types of risk were speculative risk and pure risk. Speculative risk means there is a possibility of gain or sometimes a possibility of loss, which involves both. Speculative risk involves both possibility of gain as well as possibility of loss. But here, pure risk, it means that there will be only the possibility of loss or no loss. Nature of business risk. Business risk arises due to uncertainties. Uncertainties refers to the lack of knowledge. That is, will not be knowing what will happen in the future. So that is maybe the natural calamity, that may be the change in the demand and the price, change in the government policies and the price, improvement in the technology, that is updation in the technology, etc. These all are some of the examples of uncertainty which creates risk for the business. Because of that, the outcomes of these future events are, they are not known, we are not sure because of the changes, what may happen in the future. The second is risk is an essential part of every business. Yes, it is said that no gain without pain. As such, no business can survive without having risk. That is, no business can avoid the risk, although the amount of risk may vary from business to risk. Here, risk can be minimized, but it cannot be eliminated completely. The degree of risk, it depends mainly upon the nature and the size of the business. That is, what type of a goods and service they are dealing with, and what is the size of the business, that is volume of the production and the sale. So all these are the main factors which determine the amount of risk in a business. Say for example, a business dealing in fashionable items may have higher degree of risk because certainly the items may become outdated or out of fashion. Similarly, a large scale business generally has a higher risk when it is compared with a small scale business. Next, the profit is the reward for the risk taking, or it is the reward for the risk taker. No risk, no gain. So, which applies to all the types of business. Greater the risk involved, higher will be the chance of profit. So, an entrepreneur undertakes risks under the expectation of higher profit. If a person is assuming highest risk, then he'll be expecting the highest profit. Thus, profit is thus rewarded as the risk taking. Causes of business risk. Business risk arise due to the variety of causes, which are classified as follows. The first is the natural cause. So what is a natural cause? Human beings, they have little control. Not only human beings, no living organism has any control over any of the natural calamities like floods, earthquake, lightning, heavy rains, famine, etc. And thus it affects and causes problem for and damages the property of, as well as it reduces the income in the business. So that is a cause of business risk. That is natural calamities. The second is human causes. Human causes, it includes like if a person or an employee is dishonest, if his carelessness, his negligency causes problem, and that results into a risk to the business, where ultimately the objective of the business will not be served, it will not be achieved. The stoppage of the work due to power failure, which can be managed or which can be solved, which can be controlled by the human. So these all are the human causes, like strikes, riots, management inefficiency. All these are the human causes which is resulting and affecting the income of the business. Next is economic cause. That is, these uncertainties which are relating to the economic conditions, say for example, demand for goods, competition. When LPG policy was introduced, domestic companies were affected in a greater manner because foreign direct investment was permitted in some of the sectors to up to 100%. So decisions such competition from the foreign companies affected the domestic companies. So that is an economic cause. It is an economic policy which affected the existing business in India. Prices, collection of dues from customers, a change of technology or the method of production, etc. All these are the economic causes. Financial problems like rise in the interest rate for borrowing, levy of higher taxes, etc. All these come under the same type, that is economic causes. Say suppose taxes that are levied on the raw materials, if it is increased, if it is falling under the GST slab, say from 5% it is increased to 12%, then it affects the business. And because of this economic policy imposed, framed by the government, which is affecting the economic, that is business economic condition. So these all are the economic causes of business risk. And the other causes are, here in the other causes we include all the unforeseen events like political unrest. Say suppose if there is a coalition government formed by two parties and the two parties are running the government, if suddenly a party, if it is withdrawing its support to another party, then this political unrest may cause a disturbance to the existing industries as well as the business condition, which is very riskier for the business. Sometimes bursting of boilers, fluctuations in exchange rates, which will lead to the possibility of business risk. Yes, if business is exporting or if it is importing, that is dealing with the foreign countries, then fluctuation in the exchange rate may impose a risk to the business conditions. So that was all about the risk concept. Let us see the factors which are influencing while starting the business. Well, starting a business enterprise is similar to any other human effort in which resources are employed to achieve the certain objectives. It is as such that we are putting all the efforts, we are deploying the resources so that we can achieve the objective framed in the business enterprise. Successful results in the business is depending largely upon the ability of the entrepreneurs. How able and how capable the entrepreneur is that decides the success of any business or the starters of any business to anticipate the problems, that is, to predict the problems and solve them with the minimum cost. So, this is this especially true in this modern world, in this modern business world where there is a competition and risks are high. It is not that we don't have any competitors in some of the business. Yes, competition will be there in India as well as will be from the foreign companies. So such problems, some of these problems causes problems to the business firms which has to be encountered by them. So that is the basic nature. That is the basic nature that problems will be faced by the business. For example, to start a factory, plans must be made about the location of the business. Say, suppose if you are studying the location of the business and you think that the location of the business, especially in the market area, would be better so that customers can easily buy the products. But if it is farther from the transportation, then it again increases the cost of the product. So before deciding the location of the business, everything has to be studied and analyzed properly. The possibility or number of customers has to be studied, the kind of equipment which are required for the business commencement, and the amount of money which is needed to start the business or to procure the required machineries, materials, everything has to be studied. The shop layout, purchasing, the finance needs, and whether the workers are ready to come in that location and work, that is hiring of workers so that effective implementation is possible, that also must be studied before we start a business. So these all are the problems which becomes more complex in the big business. Let's see some of the factors which must be considered by anybody who is starting the business. They are firstly the selection of line business. Which business we are selecting? The first thing the entrepreneur has to decide is what type of a nature, what type of a business it is undertaken. Is undertaken by him or her. He or she will obviously like to enter that branch of industry and commerce which has the possibility of greater amount of profits. Yes, any individual will select that line of business which gives him the chance of getting higher amount of profits. The decision will be influenced by the customer's requirements in the market and also the kind of technical knowledge and the interest the entrepreneur has for producing a particular product. Yes, it depends on the interest of the entrepreneur. It also depends on the how customers are requiring. Is there a need? Can the product be a solution for the existing problem that is being faced by the customer? So all these that makes him to select a particular line of business. Then second is size of the firm. Size of the firm or the scale of its operation is another important decision that has to be taken while commencing the business. Some factors which favors a large size, whereas some others tend to restrict the scale of operation. If the entrepreneur is confident that the demand for the proposed product that is going to be started by him is likely to be good over the time. Suppose if the entrepreneur feels that right now the product may not have demand, but in future it may have a good demand for that particular product which is going to start, he or she can arrange the necessary capital for the business commencement. he or she can start with the operation at a large scale. So decision of starting at a large scale depends on the proper analysis and his or her confidence. If the market conditions are very uncertain in which he has selected the line of business, if it is feels that risks are high, then a small size business would be a better choice. The next is choice of form of ownership. With respect to the ownership, the business organization may take the form of sole proprietorship, partnership, or a joint stock company. That is, he may start individually, we call it as a sole proprietorship, partnership in partnership business, that is, two or more persons may join together and commence a business, or a joint stock company, that is, he may start by raising the amount from the public. So each form has its own merits and demerits that you'll be studying in the next chapter. The choice of the suitable form of ownership, it depends on such factors as the line of the business, capital requirements, liability of owners, division of profit, legal formalities, continuity of business, transferability of interest, and so on. So, what I mean to say is the choice, like this form of ownership, is good. That depends on here how much is required for that particular business, the capital required, and how much the owner can bear, that is his liability. If two partners are ready to divide the profit, they don't want to share it with anyone, like they don't want to raise the money from the public, capital from the public, then they may go for the partnership business. If joint stock company forming has too much legal complications, or legal formalities are much more in joint stock company than the partnership, then choosing of partnership will be the choice of that particular owner or an individual. And continuity of business, whether he wants to do it only for 1 year or 2 year, that is joint ventures will have, if that specific purpose is served, then the business will automatically be lapsed. So if they want to continue for the longer period, men may come and men may go, but company go on forever. That is, even if the owner is not there, the company will run forever. That is the concept of joint stock company. If the choosing of the business is because they want to continue the business, then this choice of business, of ownership, the form of ownership, is depending upon all these reasons. The next is location of business enterprise. As already explained, it's a very important factor here to choose the place, to select the location where the enterprise can be located. Any mistake in this regard can result in the high cost of production. That is, say suppose inputs or the required raw materials are purchased from different location or from the farther place, that is, it is situated in a different area, and it is so such decision, okay, it causes a problem. That is, right kind of production inputs need to be serving the customers in the best possible manner. Availability of raw materials and labor, power supply and services like banking, transportation, communication, warehousing, they all are the important factors while making a choice of location. Suppose your product requires storage facilities because it is bought from purchased from different states, and wherein which if it is purchased and the way that is being chosen for transportation, if it is a waterways, then at the harbors it must be stored properly so that even if it delays, the products must not be damaged. In that case, warehousing facility is required. If bulk order is given, then banking facility or immediate payment, if it is not been done, then a banking facility will be taken. So whether the banking facility is available near the location, so all that thing has to be studied properly before selecting the location of a business enterprise. Financing the proposition. Financing is concerned with the providing necessary capital for starting as well as for continuing the proposed business. It is not that finance is required just only for the commencement, it is also required for continuing. Say, suppose finance is required not only to purchase the assets like machineries or equipments, but also to pay the wages, to pay the salary, because satisfaction of a employee is also very important, and need to purchase the raw materials. So continuity, for continuity also capital is required. To maintain a proper stock of the finished goods, capital is required. To meet the daily expenses, proper financial planning must be done to determine the requirement of capital, that is, how much working capital is needed. Working capital means the required amount to start and meet all the daily expenses. Source from where the capital will be raised, need to determine that while planning about the finance, where we can get the amount, where we can get the capital. So that source must also be determined, and the best ways of utilizing the capital in the firm is the most important plan that has to be done. It is not that we take a loan of 10 lakh and we will not utilize that amount, we keep it as it is. If it is not utilized to the maximum extent or to the best possible manner, then that resource will be a wastage. And not only that, it also increases the burden of paying the principal along with the interest amount in future. Physical facilities. Availability of physical facilities. Availability of physical facilities. So what are physical facilities? It includes machines, equipments, buildings, supportive services. They are considered to be the important factors to start a business, and they are called as physical facilities. The decision relating to this factor, it will depend on the nature of the and the size of the business, availability of the funds, as well as the process of production. Say suppose for the process of production you have opted as a capital intensive technique, not the labor intensive technique, so that we can start with the production activity quickly and get the result immediately. So to meet the production target, or to the process of production which we have selected as a capital intensive technique, machines and equipments will be easier, and this is called as a physical facility. and that decides the starting of a business. Plant layout. Once the requirement of physical facilities has been determined, the entrepreneur should draw a layout plan showing the arrangement of these facilities. Layout means here the physical arrangement of the machines and the equipment needed to manufacture a product. Natural Next is competent and committed workforce. Every enterprise needs competent and committed workforce to perform the various activities so that the physical and financial resources are converted into a desired output. Because no individual entrepreneur can do himself everything. He or she must require a skilled or unskilled worker, or sometimes both, as well as a managerial staff. Plans should also be made about the employees, how to train them, how to motivate them so that they can give their best performance. So, competency level and the committed workforce can help the organization to achieve its objective within the time, within the period. Tax planning. It has become necessary these days that tax has to be planned properly, as because there are number of tax laws in the country and they influence almost every aspect of the functioning of modern business. The founder of the business has to consider in advance what would be the tax liability, under which product, under which GST slab the product will fall. So, all that has to be analyzed by the entrepreneur. In advance, he has to consider the tax liability and need to study the various tax laws and what would be its impact on the business decisions. Lastly, launching the enterprise. After the decisions are relating to the above, all these mentioned facts have been taken by the businessman or by the entrepreneur needs to go ahead with the actual launching of the enterprise. So, after studying all these factors, he can launch the enterprise, which would mean mobilizing various resources, fulfilling necessary legal formalities, starting the production process, and initiate the sales promotion campaign. So, that was all about the factors influencing while starting the business. Thank you all.